Welcome back to the channel. It's Ryan from Movies with Ryan, and this week I'm doing 15 movie suggestions I think you should watch. Now these movies, some of them you may not have heard of, some of them are fringe, some of them you may have heard of, and if you haven't watched them, I highly suggest you do. So I'm going to run down my list, give a little synopsis, and hopefully you can find some movie choices out here that you would like to watch. So stay tuned. Starting off, number one. This movie is loosely based on a CIA true story. It is about a pilot that was undercover running drugs, and that is Tom Cruise in American Made. I really like this movie. I don't really hear a whole lot about it. It's very fast-paced, it's witty, and like I said, it is based on a true story. It's got good action in it, and Tom Cruise is top of his game in his acting. Really love this movie. Highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. Next is a movie that's been around for a long time. Stars Mark Wahlberg, Lou Diamond Phillips, Christina Applegate, Bokeem Woodbine, Antonio Sabato Jr. And that is The Big Hit. Now these four are hitmen, and they come together to try to make a big score by kidnapping a crime boss's granddaughter. And this is just nonstop hilarity. There's good quips between them. It's funny. It's got some neat little action scenes in it. All around a good movie. If you've never seen this before, highly recommend it. The Big Hit. Next is an Adam Sandler movie and a Damon Wayans movie. I guess they're in the same movie. But this is a movie that came out, I believe, right before Adam Sandler hit it big with Happy Gilmore or Billy Madison, whichever one came out first. I highly recommend this movie. Bulletproof. So Damon is basically a cop that is tasked to bring in a criminal, which is Adam Sandler, and they kind of get into some trouble, and Adam Sandler kind of has to help him out of it. It's funny. It's early Adam Sandler when he's not being the goofy Adam Sandler. I really like it. If you've not seen Bulletproof, highly recommend it. Next is a movie here in the last couple of months I've been hearing a little bit more about. Some people have been talking about it. It does not have an American Blu-ray release, so I had to import one from Germany. That is Kevin Bacon in Death Sentence. Basically, he is a family man. He goes out to get gas, I believe. He's got his family with him. Kind of runs into some thugs. Smarts off to him. They end up following him back to his house and killing them all. So they think. Kevin Bacon ends up surviving, and he goes on a little rampage. This is very outside the box, excuse me, for Kevin Bacon. I really enjoy this movie, and the ending does have a little twist to it. So if you've never seen Death Sentence, highly recommend it. Next is another movie that is actually based on a true story. Now, the reason I bought this movie is because Joaquin Phoenix is in it. It is the story of John Callahan, and it's Don't Worry, He Won't Get Far on Foot. So basically, he is an alcoholic, and he gets into a wreck, and I believe Jack Black is also in the car. Jack Black walks away. He ends up paralyzed and in a wheelchair. And he begins to drink even more, it gets worse, and he decides to go on rehab where he meets Jonah Hill. And Jonah Hill is kind of like the sponsor. And through his journey, he finds out he likes to draw. And becomes I believe it's Time magazine, maybe? He starts doing cartoons anyway, as you can see down here, for a magazine, and becomes an award-winning cartoonist. And it's a really, really nice story. It goes by fairly quickly, and it's really, really good. Joaquin Phoenix does great. Jonah Hill is great in this. Highly recommend it. Don't Worry, He Won't Get Far on Foot. Next is a movie that was showing up in the Dollar Trees. I know a lot of people don't like this movie. I don't think they understand what it's trying to say. If you have not seen this, or you thought it was just kind of a silly movie by reading the synopsis on the back, I highly recommend checking it out. It's called God Bless America. So basically, he is down on his luck. He's lost his wife, his job. He's about to lose his house. He thinks he might have a terminal illness. And he decides to, instead of killing himself, going on a spree, taking out stupid people. And he is joined by this girl, and it is just hilarity. Yes, I know killing people is not hilarious, but the way it is presented and the message it's trying to send is hilarious. God Bless America. Highly recommend it. Next is a movie I'm sure people probably have heard of. Sean William Scott, Liev Schreiber, and Jay, Canadian dude. Goon. Highly recommend this. He's a bouncer. Gets into a fight one night that he easily wins, and a hockey coach sees it and decides to try to recruit him for a hockey team. He ends up helping the team out. They get to the finals, and he's got to go against the big bad bruiser of Liev Schreiber. Really good movie. Really heartfelt. Sean William Scott's great in this. Never seen Goon. Highly recommend it. Next, Kerr Gilchrist, Emma Roberts, Zach Galifianakis. A movie about depression, suicidal thoughts, mental health. It's kind of a funny story. Main character is basically down. He's thinking about killing himself. He actually checks himself into a mental institute, and come to find out he has to be there for a 48-hour hold because he signed the paperwork. He tries to leave shortly after getting in there, but the law is the law. And he ends up meeting Emma Roberts and Zach Galifianakis, his character. And it's just kind of a funny story. Good little humor, good look into mental health, people struggling with depression. Very heart-touching story. Highly recommend. It's kind of a funny story. Now, we're not going to have a list from me if we don't at least have one Asian movie on here. Now, I talk about basically the spiritual twin of this movie all the time, but this is a John Woo movie starring Chow Yun-fat, and that is The Killer. It's basically Chow Yun-fat as a cop, and he's taking on a hitman right there, and they go toe-to-toe, and this is just as good as Hard Boiled. Shootouts are great. The action sequences are great. It's non-stop. It's a blast. So if you've never seen The Killer and you've seen Hard Boiled, highly recommend it. If you've not seen either, what are you doing? It's two of John Woo's probably best movies. You need to watch them. Next is another movie that's kind of showed up in Dollar Trees. I know at least the DVD has. I'm not sure if the Blu-ray has. This movie flew under my radar for a long time. And when I started really watching Ryan Gosling, I found this movie, really, really enjoyed it. Again, another movie about mental illness. But it's Lars and the Real Girl. Of course, he plays Lars. He lives in his sister's garage. And he's just an awkward guy. He's got a stable job. Goes to it every day, has a hard time interacting with people, and ends up purchasing a basically life-size sex doll that looks real. And he takes her everywhere, out to dinner, events, and all sorts of stuff, and the family really starts worrying about him. And finally, he comes to and kind of has a heart-to-heart with his family, and the whole time he's been kind of falling in love with this girl that he works with, and he finally takes the steps to deal with it, with his mental health and falling in love with this girl. So Lars and the Real Girl. Highly recommend this if you've not watched it. Like I said, it has been showing up in the Dollar Trees. You can pick up for $1.25 probably on DVD. It would not be a bad purchase. Another movie. I talked about this probably a few times before. Early Vin Diesel. I love early Vin Diesel. But this movie is probably my favorite of his, and that's A Man Apart, with him and Lorenz Tate. But basically, he is a DEA agent that basically takes down a Mexican drug king, and the guy that takes over puts a hit on him and ends up almost killing him, but kills his wife, the love of his life. And he becomes just a machine. He goes after them with no stopping. That's why he is a man apart. He's just apart from everything. Highly recommend this movie if you've never seen it. It's a very, very good movie, good action, and Vin Diesel is actually really good acting in this. Highly recommend it. Next is a movie I'm pretty sure people probably have heard of. I just don't think people have really watched it. This is another movie that is outside the box for the main actor, and that is Mr. Brooks with Kevin Costner, Dane Cook, Demi Moore, William Hurt. Basically, he's just a businessman that runs a business. At nighttime, he is a serial killer, and he had been getting away with it for quite a long time. He's very meticulous, does things a very certain way. It shows it through there until one day he screws up and Dane Cook catches him. There is a twist, and then there's another twist. But Mr. Brooks, it's not for everybody. I know people have said that they thought it was kind of boring. It's a slow burn, but it's very good. It's very methodical. Mr. Brooks, haven't seen it? Watch it. 3 more. So this next one I watched for the first time early last year. I was on an Aubrey Plaza kick. I think after I watched Parks and Rec, I started watching almost anything she was in. But this stars Aubrey Plaza, Mark Duplass, and Jake Johnson. And it is from the producers of Little Miss Sunshine. I just now noticed that. But it's called Safety Not Guaranteed. Aubrey is part of a 3-person magazine like research team. And they come across this ad in a paper. And the ad says, "Wanted. Someone to go back in time with me. This is not a joke. You'll get paid after we get back. Must bring your own weapons. I have only done this once before. Safety not guaranteed." So basically, Mark Duplass is a time traveler, claiming to be a time traveler. He's put this out there. They start investigating it, and Aubrey kind of starts hanging out with the guy to find out what's really going on with it, and it's a nice little story. A couple of good little twists in it. Very good writing. Just a very nice movie. So Safety Not Guaranteed. Another movie I'd recommend if you've never heard of it. Next, Amy Adams, Emily Blunt, Alan Arkin. Sunshine Cleaning. So this was kind of, I really like this movie just because it kind of deals with something I dealt with when I was in the medical field. But basically, Amy Adams is down on her luck. She's a single mother, finding it hard to get a job in her little town. Emily Blunt is her kind of just sister that doesn't do a whole lot. She's a slacker. And Alan Arkin is their father that is a salesman. She runs into a racket about crime scene cleanup, and she starts doing it. She starts undercutting the other business in town. She starts becoming good at it. She gets her sister into it. And then they kind of run into some trouble. And it's basically the trials and tribulations of a single mother trying to make way for herself and her child, and the obstacles they come to. Not really any gore in this or anything horrific in this. It's just a very lovely story. Like I said, about a mother trying to make her way. Sunshine Cleaning. If you haven't heard of it, highly recommend it. Rounding this out, I had to have something with Adam Driver in it. So this stars, let's see, Adam Driver, Kathryn Hahn, Jason Bateman, and a couple other people. Tina Fey. Yeah, Rose Byrne. It's got a few people in it. But it's called This Is Where I Leave You. So basically, the patriarch of a family dies, and the mother forces all the kids, 4 of them, to sit at the house for their father's wake for 3 days. And they basically have to hash out all their differences. And it's a phenomenal acting from the whole cast. I'm not usually a Tina Fey fan, but she kills it in this. Adam Driver's great. Jason Bateman's great. And that guy there, you know who he is. I forget what all he's played, but he's a good guy. Anyway, excellent movie. It's about family. It's about coming together and really learning about each other, reconciling differences, and saying goodbye to a family member. This Is Where I Leave You. So, folks, that's 15 recommendations of movies that you may have never heard of or have never seen. Or maybe you have heard of them and you just didn't think you would like them if you watched them. Hopefully, I've given you some ideas. Maybe some of these will be put on your watch list and you'll get around to watching them, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you have seen any of these, please leave comments down below. Let me know what you thought of them. Please like, please subscribe, please hit that bell notification. As of yesterday, I did my first live stream. It went fantastic. I had Pop's Movie Dungeon, Side Hustle Cinema, and Jagoda Blue 7 on there. We talked about some of our favorite horror movies, and it was really a nice time. I appreciate them. I want to say thanks to them again for joining me and making my first live stream great, and I thank everybody that joined me. But like I always say, this is Ryan from Movies with Ryan. Till I see you again, have a fantastic night.